Hey everyone, welcome to the Smiling Homeschooler podcast. We're glad you can join us again this week. Before we begin, we do want to say, as always, thank you to Teaching Textbooks. And, even though we say it every week, we do want it to be something that you do check out because they are just an amazing curriculum. And if you haven't, you should for this next school year over at teachingtextbooks.com. They're just an amazing company. They have amazing support. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to them. Or check them out at a homeschooling convention if you're going to one. They're pretty much at all of them. Today's show is also being underwritten by Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share, where members are committed to honoring Christ through a community of Christians that pay one another's medical bills, helping families take a safe step of faith as they feel God's leading in career or in ministry changes or in bringing mom home. And you can learn more in the show notes about Redeem Health Share by Samaritan Ministries. But Dad, if you're ready, go ahead and get started. Let's go.
Yeah, well, we're kind of like stuck in weather. We can't decide if this is spring or if we're regressing into late winter. It has been cold and rainy here. It plays with us. Sometimes it feels like it's going to be a nice, sunny, warm day. And then the next day, like the low is close to freezing. So I'm not liking that. But, I hope that tonight's show is a fun show. We were going to have Catherine, but she had some things come up, so she wasn't going to be here. But we hope to have her most every show because I think she adds a lot to the show. But it's just old Ben and I today. We're watching kids this evening, so they just all left. So I'm good. But what I thought we'd talk about, Ben, was, I don't know how long ago, maybe about it. I know I'm late coming to all this, but maybe a year ago, you guys were talking about hot takes, and everybody seemed to know about what a hot take was except me. And so,
that's
but
like
I know what a hot
it's
take
like,
is.
I don't even know when I didn't know what a hot take was,
Well, everybody used it in such like, what's your a movie hot take? And I'm like, I just didn't know what that, but it's kind of an unresearched thought that just is to kind of stir controversy or to stir discussion.
Actually, I wouldn't say necessarily exactly that. I would say I think a better definition would just be something that you think that often goes against the general consensus. So it's not even like hot take, I think the Earth's flat and you just didn't do any research, so you're wrong. It's like, if everyone says, oh, The Lion King's an amazing movie, and you're like, hot take, I actually don't like it, So it's not really like a matter of something you can debate. It's something that you just feel strongly about, even if it's not true. So
okay, well, so I thought we maybe talk about hot takes in homeschooling. Things like, I was trying to think of one of mine, but it felt like we wanted to make sure it didn't destroy anybody's business or reputation.
Yeah.
So it kind of morphed into what we're going to talk about now. Because you've heard over the last couple of years, we've talked about homeschool personalities. And just within the last month and a half, we've finally come up with a book called The Four Homeschool Personalities. And so I thought maybe Ben and I so it's not really hot takes. These are not hot takes. But more of trying to guess or maybe to discuss which of these statements would best fit one of the personalities. And for moms who don't know what I'm talking about, the four personalities that we talk about in the book are four distinct personalities that can be, mushed together. But there's a falcon who's kind of a laser focused, gets a lot done. The kids are smart, and she, gets to the end of the school year and she's finished her days, finished her curriculum, and she has it all neatly organized in a binder. Then there's the owl, who's kind of wants more than just a typical education, doesn't want status quo or busy work. She's the thoughtful one, is always thinking how she could do better. And then there's the swan, who's kind of the cousin to the falcon, kind of like falcon light. She likes routine and she likes a plan. She does it very serenely, maybe without some of the passion that a falcon will have, or that focus that the falcon will have, or maybe without the same compass that a owl has. And then there's the sandpiper, who's the fun, likes to wing it personality. She ebbs and flows with life and really has a good time with her kids, but sometimes wonders if she's doing a very good job with her kids. And so we delve into that more deeply in the book. But I thought maybe we just use this as a fun conversation. I was hoping Catherine would be a part of it. And maybe I'd read a statement and maybe we could talk about it to say which of those four personalities is more likely to be the one that we're talking about. Does that sound clear, Ben?
Yep.
Clear enough. So here's the first one. What kind of personality would you guess, Ben, would be the one if this person schedules brushing her teeth on her planner or her schedule?
This might be the most obvious, straightforward one of the whole thing. I mean, you are a Falcon through and through, but this is not really even a joke. I mean, I've seen people, with their planners schedule this out, and there's a whole Instagram and YouTube community and TikTok community of people who just do planners, and they love putting out they have their habit trackers and they have their, schedules all laid out and their spreads of everything. And not that none of the other ones couldn't ever, but you're probably not going to be a sandpiper. So I would say Falcon tendencies.
I get a reminder on my phone that somehow it's part of Cal's, and I would never say Cal was a Falcon, but I get these schedules that says change socks, so I don't know if he likes
weird.
But I know that even a guy I worked for, Pastor Rick, he would put things on. He loved planning and scheduling, and he would put things on there just so he could check them off. So if he didn't write it down early in the day, he would write later, change clothes, and then he'd already changed his clothes, and he'd put a check mark by it, and he just loved that. And really, as we talk about falcons and swans, they both like the schedules. They like those measurable goals, and again, that's a strength, but it can be kind of silly at times.
But I will say that, and this is something obviously with any kind of personality thing is you're going to have elements of everything probably, or well, maybe not, but you could. So like Rissa, she, would tend to be a sandpiper, but she definitely still she definitely loves checklists. If we're going to go like on a trip or something like that, she'll do a bunch of checklists and stuff like that. She has her calendar that she puts everything on. So, you may do it, but it might be for different reasons, so like for her or for me, for example, it's like I will forget. And so I have to remind myself to do some of those things. But some people, it's because they want to utilize every second of the day to its fullest potential and correctly, or they just want to have everything planned out without any kind of doubt there, So that's a different kind of motivation, I think. So who you are if if you're hearing that, I think. So
how about the next one? If your husband has accused you of never getting mad, you might be
not a human being.
That's
I'm
right.
Sorry, this one I can't relate to, so I don't know the answer to this.
Because everybody gets mad, right? But sometimes the swan, or the one who kind of glides through life, sometimes they don't seem to get ruffled very easily. They just kind of glide through. I know some swans who, they just seem like a kind of a flat line. They don't have the ups, they don't have the downs, which sometimes sounds glorious. But that could be others as well. I mean,
I hear drugs do that to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think the next one is if you started homeschooling more than 3 times, you might be what? So this is like the idea of like starting and then stopping and then starting and then and putting your kids back in, or just started early.
I don't know. Sometimes it's just mental, or sometimes it is really, and really the answer, and it's not a correct answer, but it is kind of a characteristic of a sandpiper, because if you picture in your head that sandpiper running up and down the surf, as the waves come in and out. The sandpiper is just is all gust, or a short burst of energy, So she's really excited about homeschooling, and then she might doubt it and do something else with them, and then she gets excited about it again. And really, I don't know if you can picture anybody in your head, Ben, but I know usually the sandpipers that I know of are always onto a really exciting new thing.
Mm-hmm.
They find a curriculum and they're super pumped about it.
Yeah.
Or they found a book that they love so much. And sometimes, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, because they'll have, oh, this new plan that I'm going to do. Every 3 minutes, I do this. I think in my head, yeah, I don't think that's probably going to last. It's not a bad thing. Because again, a falcon, they start something after extreme research and they never veer from it. But the sandpiper, starts different things all the time. It's kind of the beauty of her personality at the same time.
Yeah, I mean that variety can just be really a big strength. I mean, it keeps it fresh and
right.
And different all the time. Which, I mean, Mom wasn't really a sandpiper in even the any sense of the word, but she did change it a lot, which did keep it interesting as when we were younger.
And sometimes for different reasons. Sometimes the owl or that very thoughtful personality, it changes because they believe there could be something better. But I thought it was interesting because your own daughter, who you just said your wife is sometimes a sandpiper, said there was a new rule at your house that if they said something maybe not a nice way or something, that they got 3 check marks for the day. And Renly's like, when Rissa announced it, she said, she's not going to do it, And then she was like surprised when she saw the check mark list up on and she's like, oh, she's really going to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. A fate worse than death is missing out on snack time or watching something right before bed. So if we feel like the attitudes are getting out of hand, that's going to be our punishment there. We'll see if it works, but let's see here. If you've made your kids do school between fever breaks, you may be what? And that could be anything, right? Whether it's
well, these are so funny because I think that falcon personality, that one who has to get her 180 days done, regardless of the pain and suffering of her children. And I always think this is kind of a joke. In fact, in our cartoon book, the official book of homeschooling cartoons, one of the cartoons is, the mom who goes, oh, your fever's down, we can do some more school.
Yeah.
It is amazing how many moms will come up to me, or their kids will come up to me and confess the same thing. Like, oh man, my kids are sick, and as soon as that Tylenol kicks in, we're back on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. I think some of the other ones could also do it if you have if you're very conscientious about something. So like a falcon, I think it's because they're like driven to be like, I'm going to be, as close to correct in this as I can. But I think other ones would be like, well, I really want to, I want to be able to say that I did X. So I really need to make sure that I do every day exactly how I've, thought. And I think that could cross over to the other ones. But yeah, that would be one. Some of these obviously are just different ways of doing it, and that's totally valid. This one, I would say, it's probably okay to let them be sick for that day from time to time,
Well, the falcon mom is also, I think it's funny because sometimes when we're talking about it at conventions, I'll say, some falcons are the ones who do like school on sick days or vacation days. And then I always say, if you did it on the way to the convention or you're doing it now while you're at the convention. And there's always, there's a half a dozen women who burst into laughter because they are doing that.
Yeah.
And again, the reason we talk about it is not just to say, hey, this is who I am, which that's who you are.
Yeah.
But to be aware of some of the weaknesses of our own personalities, really, and just saying, hey, just because I want to do it during vacation doesn't mean I should
or
do
you
it during
feel the
vacation.
pull, because I think the pull is legit. Like feeling like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
need to do this is a strong feeling. You know, this is something that happens in work a lot too. You know, there'll be people who say like, well, I just have so much to do on my plate. I have to work through every lunch that I do with other people, or, you know, hey, we're doing a team bonding event, but I have to work through it the whole time while I'm there with everyone on my laptop because I just have so much on my plate. And it's really, you've left no margin, or you have set an expectation that's so unbelievably high that you can just, it's just going to take every second you can give it. And I don't think that's necessarily the way to strive for overall, but that's at least my hot take, I guess.
Now the next one's going to be hard because it could be, it says if you're taking a day off from school because the sun is shining, you might be a ... And really that could be,
I hope it for
maybe,
everyone, honestly.
right,
I hope they all do, but yeah, realistically.
right. The Falcon probably would not do that, you know, unless she had a handful of days she'd already made up.
Or she has the Smiling
You know,
Homeschooler spinner.
That's right. That's a good point. That's a good point. But that's a good answer, Ben. I hope that every mom would do that. But I know that, you know, an owl who really wants more than that, or a sandpiper who would just take any kind of an excuse to take the day off. But again, I think we talked about this last week, maybe the week before. Moms, if you live in gray northern Indiana and you have a nice sunny day, that is like God whispering down from heaven. Take the day off, you know, to enjoy it outside.
Pretty sure, and this is for any of the Lord of the Rings fans, which is probably not a lot, but if you hear eagles calling every time the sun comes out, because it feels like Mordor all the time, where it's just gray, ash-filled skies, it starts to feel that way in the spring. So it's like finally you have the sun, and it's such a rare day that it feels amazing. So you just have to celebrate those, you know?
You do.
But I wanted to see here, where are we at time wise? Cause I don't want to run out of time, cause we have quite a few of these good ones. We'll do one more here. Before we do a commercial, if you're, homeschooling during a national disaster, this would be like let's say a hurricane or something like that, you know? I feel like a lot of these are going to be Falcons, if these intense ones, you know. I'm trying to think if my sister-in-law has ever done this, because they live down in Florida during, you know, there've been hurricanes. I feel like they would count. I feel like they would count a hurricane as school, you know.
Oh yeah,
probably.
Again, so many of these are like cartoons. Again, in our official book of homeschooling cartoons, and they're really modeled after my sister-in-law. But she hates when I say that. But it is that again, sometimes it's drawn out of fear, where we feel like, oh man, we've got to get this done. And really, if you're in the middle of a national disaster or anything else, like we said, vacation, you can count those all as school days, because your kids are always learning good, important stuff during the midst of them.
I'd actually say, personally, I think those kind of events are some of the most impactful in terms of, to me, something that I really want to instill in my children is just not being afraid of things that just because that's what everyone says you're supposed to be afraid of.
Oh.
And I think that you can set a really strong example during those moments, which is really awesome. Grace, your niece just said, "Which one, Dad?" So you can call out which one.
I'm gonna let that just.
We will never know.
Figure that out on your own.
Yeah.
But I did dedicate a cartoon book to her, so if you look at them, you might see which aunt that is in there.
Yeah.
And I did even use her name one time, I think, in one of them.
Yeah.
So, but you know, we should have had Catherine on this, because Catherine is a weather warrior. And so last night I had her kids, I took them to a volleyball game, and even her 4-year-old daughter kept saying, "Do you think we need to get home before the storm begins, Pops?" So
yeah, doesn't fall far. But real quick here, we do want to say thank you to Teaching Textbooks for making the Smiling Homeschooler possible. And this is not a hot take, but I think Teaching Textbooks is one of the best math curriculums out there because it helps homeschoolers smile. And our families loved using it. It's super interactive. You can do it from any device. My daughter does it from a laptop right at the kitchen table. It's interactive. It's engaging. And I learned better, even myself, when I got to use it towards the end of my homeschool time. So if you haven't checked them out, you should over at teachingtextbooks.com. We really appreciate all the support they provide.
We also want to thank Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share for being part of today's show. Imagine joining a community where everyone's got your back. That's what it's like at Redeem. When you become a member, you're not just another name on a list. You're part of a close-knit community that's all about caring for each other. We share more than just healthcare costs. We share our lives, our faith, and our journeys. With Redeem, you're never alone. Each month, you'll directly help other members with their eligible medical expenses. It's like passing on a blessing. When it's your turn to need support, the community is here to take care of you. This isn't just a financial model. It's a way of living our faith out by lifting each other up in love and kindness. You can learn more in the show notes.
Well, this was one that I think is a big one here. It says if you, I'm going to say, dream about putting your kids in school and what you could do with all your free time, which one do you fall into?
I think that might be all of them, because I think everybody thinks about that. I know that moms listening kind of not fantasize, but they tell themselves the lie that they're the only ones who feel that way. Mm-hmm. And the truth is every mom feels that way from time to time. And you really have to fight it. I mean, I'm thinking, and maybe I've talked about this in the past, I don't know. I usually have. But
at this point you probably have.
Really, being a homeschooler, being a mom, being a parent, being a dad is a life of surrender. You really have to say, hey, I might want to do those things, but that's not the best. So I give up, I surrender that. And that is a continual thing. I know my wife and I, we talk about it all the times, and we watch some of the people we know who are our age, and they're just footloose and fancy free. And I pity them, because
pity the fool.
We haven't made.
Yeah.
We haven't made.
Yep. And actually, this is kind of off topic, but just the how normal things are for how there's homeschoolers feeling that way. I actually saw something on Facebook. I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems like it was legit, and it was talking about percentage of homeschoolers, like of a state. And I just thought it was a cool graph. It showed like every state. So like Montana, it said like 9+% of kids were homeschooled. And Tennessee was really high, over 9%. Indiana is, I think, around 7 to 8%, but, and then obviously there's like the low states, which are like California and, some of those like, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. But, even a lot of those, though, we're talking like 5 to 10% of kids, and some places even higher. So it really is so many people out there who are feeling like you are and who have felt those dreams of maybe we should just do it. I don't know, but don't give in to it. I really think it pays off in the end. And I'm so thankful my mom never gave in and put me in school. It would have made a huge impact.
I would even say I've talked to at least a handful of moms who've said, we thought we had issues during our homeschool. We put them in school and it was like throwing gas on a fire. I'll never forget, and I've shared on the show before about the mom who said, I ruined my kids' lives because I put them in school. She said it like 3 times boldly without apology. And I'm not saying you'll ruin your kids by putting them in, but that's what that mom said. And I felt like I wish I could bottle that up and share it with others, because I think sometimes, and as we talk about personalities, sometimes personalities like the sandpiper can think those thoughts, can say, because we're going to get off topic or off, our questions here, but sandpipers often feel like my kids are behind, they're not they have a lot of fun, but we're behind, and maybe it'd just be better off if I put him in school.
Go ahead. Nope. Go ahead.
Nope,
continue.
But if you're hearing those thoughts in your head and maybe even starting to say them to yourself, I think that's a lie that, the father of lies is whispering. Your kids are doing just fine, and your kids would not be better off if you put them in something else.
Yeah, I mean that's what one of the ones we had here was if you worry about your kids' academics being rigorous enough, you might be, and the same kind of piggybacking off of that was if you worry about whether you're doing a good enough job. I mean I do think that is every personality to some extent. There might be certain personalities that don't show it as much or don't say it as much, or I know certain people who once they set on a path, they pretty much don't really doubt that path much, and or at least vocally. But I would also say we tend to find from the people who've done it, there are a lot of owls in the homeschool community. And I think that's just human nature. I mean, there tends like the Falcons, I think are just even in any kind of personality type, not just related to homeschool, though that personality type is not a huge percentage of the population in terms of like, super type A, super dominant, that's not everyone. That's under 10% usually. And then the Sandpiper, which is kind of like that really not too concerned about what everyone else is thinking, I think is also a pretty rare group. So you do kind of have that bigger middle. I think that is a lot of owls who, are really conscientious about what they're doing. They're super intentional. They're homeschooling for a reason. Of course you're going to be worried about, are you doing enough, or am I being rigorous enough? And I do not think that's going to be a problem at all, to be honest. I mean, if your kid's excited, I think that will pay so many more dividends long term than if they just, can go through I've done all the books and, the whole periodic table and everything else. So
how about this one? If you've owned more than 3 planners and never made it past 3 weeks, you might be I'll say everybody except the falcon or the swan.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that could be true. Really, Mom's an owl, I think she said, right?
Yeah, but she probably hasn't used a planner like other people use a planner. I mean, you get sidetracked after a while. But, that's the beauty of really living within your own personality. Because sometimes you listen to someone and they say, oh, what you need is some daily planners, and you can organize. And I can remember Mom got a planner that fit on her wall, and it was how to organize your time. And I think it was like 5-minute increments, it was a short period of time. And it was all these things, and it had these, lines. If this happens, do this. And, sometimes because somebody with a different personality than yours, like someone who likes planners, or maybe is that type A Falcon personality, likes planners, they sometimes create them out of their own strengths. And they say, wouldn't this be great for you? And if you're a Sandpiper, or maybe even an owl who doesn't want to be limited to, some kind of plan, you want to go with the flow, or you want to flex with learning opportunities. Sometimes you can think that, oh, there must be something wrong with me because I don't use a planner. Really, planners are made by a certain personality for a certain personality. Same thing with other kind of tidbits and other kind of curriculum that are created by a personality for people with that same personality, but they market it to everybody. And I think the temptation is to think, I must be bad, I must be wrong, I must not be able to do this. When, again, if you say, hey, my personality is not like that person's personality, I got to do it my way. And that's the beauty, I think, of this new book, for homeschool personalities.
I actually watched a video a while back where it was a guy who was talking about planning and some forms of journaling and stuff. It's a famous, it's called bullet journaling. But he was saying, and I thought it was really, 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 I've never heard anyone else say this, even though so many people talk about different things, online and social media and videos and stuff like that. But, there's so many big communities of people who want things to look a certain way or feel a certain way or collect a certain thing or whatever it is. And he's like, just because you want to be a certain way doesn't mean you need to be a certain way. Like a lot of times people will see this type of thing, like this beautiful planned out day or perfectly planned out day and be like, man, I wish I want to be like that, but it just may not be you. And that's okay to just understand that and not just do it because you feel like you should be like that. And I think that's a really powerful thing to just look at something and be like, you know what? As cool as I think this may be, I know I can't be that, and so I'm just not going to try to pursue it, because I think it can lead to a lot of frustration trying to pursue something that's just not really, who you're going to be. So,
and that's a beautiful thing. I mean, if you can come to the point, and I think people will say, even this past week last weekend, when I was in Duluth or whenever that was, the weekend before. People would say things like, these personality things, I feel like I started out as this and then I became more like this. These personalities are for homeschool personalities. They're not just who you are. And sometimes they do change over time. You might start out, kind of rigid and focused like a falcon, and that may change and morph as you mature. I shouldn't even say mature. As you homeschool longer, you kind of go, oh yeah, maybe that's not as important as I first thought it was. And I think that's kind of interesting as well. Well, hey, why don't we just stop there? I mean, we could do a few others, and I think I was looking down through the list. Some of those are pretty obvious. If you get up every morning and think, what are we doing for school today? You might be a what? I'd like to say that's a sandpiper, but I think that becomes, towards this time of the year, that's probably a lot more people than you would think, because maybe you feel that way. Maybe, I think, again, that's kind of a God, I think, telling you that it's time to wind it down. Because I don't know who decided that 180 days was the exact time that we should do school. But I think if we were kind of going by the seasonal things, it feels like spring means we're getting ready to do something different, that we're moving outdoors or whatever, getting out of the house. So thanks for joining us. If you haven't gotten our book, haven't taken the personality test, you can take the personality test online at thesmilinghomeschooler.com. You can order the book, The 4 Homeschool Personalities. Again, it's a super easy read. It's under 100 pages. You can get that along with your American Homeschool t-shirt, American Homeschooler. We have them in red and blue. We have them in all sizes, that everyone in the family, from children all the way up. I mean, I was holding up I have a youth small is really small, up to 2X. Again, I imagine all the families, wearing them at Memorial Day that's coming up, Mother's Day or whatever, at the parks, and 4th of July as we celebrate 250 years of our country.
Yeah. All right. Well, and real quick here, actually, I wanted to read this comment. Rebecca said, off topic, but I enjoyed your Parents with Adult Children podcast last week. I also ordered your new book and can't wait. It's a needed topic because we want to do it well, as they've graduated our homeschool but still live at home. So if you didn't listen to last week's, definitely should. It was a great episode. But all right. Well, thanks you everyone for joining us. Again, thank you to Teaching Textbooks for making what we do possible. They're an amazing supporter of us, but also the homeschooling community. So go support them and tell them that we sent you over at teachingtextbooks.com. Today's show is also being underwritten by Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share, where members are committed to honoring Christ and serving one another through healthcare needs. As Dad likes to say, we use, love, and recommend Samaritan Ministries, and you can learn more in the show notes about Redeem Health Share by Samaritan Ministries. Have a great week, and don't forget to smile. See you next week.